My name is Amelia. I'm sitting in my office, looking at the framed electricity shut-off notice on the wall and the civil acknowledgement beside it. These two items represent two very different moments in my life, one of rejection and the other of justice. It all started when my parents, Robert and Linda Thompson, called me in a panic, asking for a huge favor that I couldn't possibly grant. 6 months ago, I was in a tough spot. I worked as an elevator control system inspector in Seattle, Washington. A burst pipe in my apartment had caused significant damage, and my emergency savings were used up for the repairs. To make matters worse, there was a payroll error at work, and 2 of my paychecks were delayed. I was on the verge of having my electricity cut off, so I went to my parents' house, hoping they could lend me $1,000. I sat across from them at the kitchen table, showing them the shut-off notice and promising to repay the money within 3 weeks. My father, Robert, pushed the notice back to me without even reading the second page. "You need to learn independence," he said firmly. My mother, Linda, nodded as if it was a profound life lesson. Just 4 days before that, they had proudly announced that they had co-signed my younger brother, Ethan Thompson's $500,000 house and borrowed against their own home to help with his down payment. They were willing to risk decades of their savings for him, but $1,000 for me was apparently a threat to my character. I didn't cry or argue. I just folded the notice, put it in my bag, and stood up. "Understood," I said quietly. Then I stopped calling them. I took on overnight inspection jobs, sold my grandmother's antique jewelry, and spent 2 evenings in a dark apartment until my paycheck finally arrived. My brother, Ethan, was always the golden child. Since we were kids, our parents treated his comfort as a top priority and my needs as an opportunity for me to grow. When Ethan turned 18, they bought him a brand new motorcycle. When I turned 18 2 years earlier, I was given a book on financial management and told to start saving for my future. Ethan got a trip to Europe after high school graduation, while I got a set of tools because, according to my mother, I would need them for my technical career. In our parents' eyes, Ethan was sensitive and needed constant support, while I was capable and could handle anything on my own. This difference in treatment followed us into adulthood. Ethan changed his college major 4 times, quit 3 different jobs, and moved back home whenever things got tough. On the other hand, I completed a rigorous technical certification while working night shifts and became one of the few women on my regional elevator safety team. Whenever I achieved something, my father would say it was because of their strict parenting. But when Ethan failed, they would say he needed more help. Ethan's $500,000 house was in a luxurious new development with 6 bedrooms, a 4-car garage, and a state-of-the-art kitchen that was bigger than my entire apartment. He had only been working as a sales representative for a software company for less than a year, yet he acted as if the house was a well-deserved reward. At the housewarming party, my father raised a glass and announced that Ethan was building a great future. My mother posted dozens of photos online, including one of herself holding a sign that said, "Home is where the heart is." I wasn't invited. I found out about the party when a cousin tagged me in a family photo and asked why I was missing. Ethan later messaged me, saying the guest list was limited, but I saw 2 of his friends from the gym and a guy he met at a golf tournament in the pictures. A week after my electricity was restored, Ethan sent me a photo of his new home theater. "Finally finished the entertainment room," he wrote. The equipment in that room cost more than the $1,000 my parents refused to lend me. I stared at the message for a while and then replied with a thumbs up. He then asked if I could inspect the small elevator he wanted to install in his house for free because we were family. I told him my license didn't cover private work and gave him the number of a certified contractor. His response was immediate, "You've always been so stingy about helping family." That was the last straw for me. I muted the family group chat, stopped going to Sunday dinners, and ignored my mother's invitations without giving any explanations. No one in the family asked about my apartment repairs or how I managed to keep the electricity on. My father sent me a message telling me not to be so dramatic, and my mother sent me a photo of Ethan's living room, saying, "We wish you could be happy for your brother." Ethan never bothered to ask why I disappeared. I survived by taking on emergency elevator inspection jobs at hospitals and commercial buildings. Elevator breakdowns couldn't wait until morning, and these jobs paid double. During one of these shifts, I met Lily Chen, a risk management consultant working on a large-scale hospital renovation project. She noticed how quickly I identified a faulty elevator relay that 2 other contractors had missed. A week later, Lily called me and asked if I had ever thought about starting my own independent compliance consulting business. Many property management companies needed someone to review elevator maintenance records before state inspections, and there were very few experts willing to deal with older elevator systems. I told her I had no business experience. She replied, "You know the regulations, you know the machinery, and you can spot when someone is trying to hide something. The business part can be learned." For the first time, the idea of being independent didn't seem like a punishment. It seemed like an opportunity. I registered a small company called Thompson Vertical Safety, worked evenings from my old repair workshop, and took on my first 2 clients. Within 3 months, I had earned enough to rebuild my emergency fund. I framed the old electricity shutoff notice and hung it above my desk, not to remember the humiliation but to remind myself of the day I stopped relying on my family's approval for my security. Meanwhile, Ethan's online life became more and more extravagant. He posted photos of expensive furniture, catered parties, and a new sports car parked in front of his house. My mother commented on every photo, and my father told relatives that Ethan was moving up in the business world. What they didn't mention was that Ethan's base salary couldn't even cover half of his expenses. I assumed my parents were secretly supporting him, just as they always had. 5 months after the electricity incident, Thompson Vertical Safety got a life-changing opportunity. A large regional hospital network discovered incomplete elevator maintenance records across 15 facilities. Lily recommended my company for an independent audit. After 3 interviews, I signed the biggest contract I had ever seen. The contract would cover almost a year of work and allow me to hire 2 technicians. Sitting in my car after the final meeting, I looked at the signed contract on my tablet and remembered the 2 nights I ate crackers in the dark because my parents thought $1,000 was too much to lend me. Success didn't erase that memory, but it changed its meaning. Their refusal didn't mean I was unworthy. It meant I could survive being treated as if I were. That same afternoon, a cousin sent me a screenshot from a neighborhood forum. A subcontractor claimed Ethan owed him more than $20,000 for landscaping and pool construction. Another person said the check Ethan had written had bounced. By evening, the post was gone, but the news spread through the extended family. Ethan's software company suspended him for improper client reimbursements. He had charged personal vacations and home appliances to the company's expense account, claiming they were related to business meetings. At least 2 clients were demanding refunds for deposits they had given Ethan for projects that were never started. The next morning, my mother called me. I let the call go to voicemail. She called again, and then my father called. My mother sent a message saying there had been a misunderstanding and that the whole family needed to be together. I didn't answer. During lunch, Lily came into my office with a folder and said a man was waiting in the reception area asking for me. It was my father. He had never visited my previous job, never attended my certification ceremony, and once forgot the name of the company where I had worked for 5 years. He walked into my office without congratulating me on my new business. His eyes scanned the new desks, the compliance manuals, and the framed hospital contract before landing on me. "You've done well," he said, not with pride but with calculation. I asked, "What do you need?" He closed the door. Ethan was 3 months behind on his mortgage. Since my parents had co-signed, the bank was demanding payment from them. They had also taken out a home equity loan to give Ethan $100,000 for the down payment, closing costs, and renovations. If the mortgage default continued, their credit would be ruined, and they might lose their own home. My father wanted me to lend them $80,000 from my business account. He said it was a temporary investment, and once Ethan sold the house, everyone would be repaid. I almost laughed. You refused me $1,000, I said. That was different, he replied. How? I asked. You were asking for a utility bill. Ethan's problem involves real property and the financial stability of the whole family. We knew you could figure it out because you're so capable, he said. There it was, the same excuse they had used for every unequal decision. I was denied help because I was capable, and Ethan was rewarded because he wasn't. I told my father my company didn't have $80,000 available for family loans. It was true. The hospital contract looked great, but the payments would come in installments, and the money in my account was reserved for salaries, insurance, and equipment. My father suggested I apply for a business line of credit. When I refused, he leaned forward and whispered, "Your brother could face criminal charges if his company presses the issue. Losing the house would make everything worse. You have a chance to keep this private." The word private caught my attention. What exactly needs to stay private? I asked. He stood up quickly. Nothing. I'm just saying family matters shouldn't become public gossip. After he left, I started looking into the property records. Ethan's deed and mortgage were public, as was the home equity lien on my parents' house. The dates didn't add up. My parents had taken out $100,000 from their home almost 4 months before Ethan's house closing, but my mother had always told relatives that Ethan had saved his own down payment. That evening, I opened a storage box from when I moved out. At the bottom was a statement from an education investment account my grandmother had set up for me. The last balance I remembered was about $45,000. My parents had told me the account had lost most of its value during the economic downturn, which was why I had worked through technical school. I called the financial institution and spent an hour verifying my identity. Since the account was custodial and transferred to me as an adult, they could provide historical statements. The next morning, the representative emailed me the records. The money hadn't disappeared during the recession. $40,000 had been withdrawn shortly after my 22nd birthday. On the same day, my parents paid off Ethan's private college debt and bought him a new car. My signature was on the authorization form, but it wasn't mine. Another small account, funded by my grandmother's life insurance, had been accessed shortly before Ethan bought the house. The transfer authorization had my mother's email address. I looked at the old shut-off notice on my desk and finally understood why my mother panicked when I said I had learned independence. My parents hadn't just chosen Ethan over me, they had used my money to finance his lifestyle. I didn't confront them right away. For 3 days, I gathered statements, withdrawal records, and copies of the authorization forms. Lily connected me with an attorney named Rachel Green. Rachel confirmed that the documents raised serious questions about forgery and unauthorized transfers. She advised me not to warn anyone until we had preserved all the evidence. Before we could send a letter, my mother announced a mandatory family meeting at their house. She invited aunts, uncles, and cousins, claiming Ethan was being targeted by unfair employers and creditors. The meeting was clearly designed to pressure me in front of the family. When I arrived, there were 15 people in the living room. Ethan stood near the fireplace, looking like a man at his own funeral. His fiancée, Sarah Miller, sat apart from him with her arms crossed. My father had laid out the mortgage statements on the dining table. My mother hugged me as if we hadn't had a strained relationship for months. "We're all here now," she said. "We can find a solution without any blame." I stood there and asked, "What solution?" My father explained that the family needed $90,000 to bring Ethan's mortgage up to date, settle the contractor claims, and protect my parents' home equity loan. He calculated that each relative should contribute according to their income. My share was $70,000 because, he said, my new company had high earning potential. The rest of the family was expected to contribute the remaining $20,000. One of my aunts looked shocked, and a cousin whispered, "Is he serious?" My mother immediately started her act. She reminded everyone how hard she and my father had worked to raise 2 children. She said Ethan had made mistakes but deserved our compassion. Then she turned to me. "Amelia is in the best position to help. We've supported her for years, and this is her chance to give back." I placed my folder on the table. "You supported me?" I asked. My father warned me not to change the subject. I opened the first statement and passed copies around the room. "Grandma set up an education account for me. You told me it lost most of its value, but it didn't." $40,000 was taken out with a fake signature. The money was used to pay off Ethan's college debt and buy him a car. The room went dead silent. My mother's face turned pale, and my father looked at Ethan instead of the document. I placed the second record next to it. Another account funded by Grandma's life insurance was accessed before Ethan bought the house. The authorization used Mom's email. My mother started crying right away, not the shocked tears of an innocent person but the strategic crying she always used when she was in trouble. She said the accounts were family money, that they had planned to replace it, and that Ethan needed the funds more for his career. Sarah turned to Ethan. "Did you know about this?" Ethan didn't say a word. His silence was the answer. My father finally spoke. "Your grandmother trusted us to use the money wisely. Technical school costs less than a 4-year college. We made a decision based on both of your needs." I said, "You forged my name. That's a legal problem." My mother grabbed my wrist. "Amelia, please. We can talk about this privately." I removed her hand. "You invited everyone here so my answer would be public. Well, here it is. I won't give Ethan $70,000. I won't borrow against my company. I won't cover up anything." My father's voice rose. "After everything we've done for you, you're willing to destroy the family over money?" I replied, "You were willing to destroy it when you decided only Ethan's future mattered." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "You're just waiting for me to fail so you can humiliate me. The old account has nothing to do with my current situation." Then he made a huge mistake. "You weren't even using that money. Dad said you'd never know it was gone." Sarah stood up and took off her engagement ring. Ethan tried to change his tone, but it was too late. Sarah asked how many other financial lies he had told her. She had thought his down payment came from his savings and commissions. She had also invested $30,000 in the house, expecting her name to be on the deed after the wedding, but it never was. My mother begged everyone to stop attacking Ethan. My father ordered me to leave. I gathered my folder and placed Rachel's business card on the table. All future questions about my accounts should go through my attorney. My father stared at the card. "You'd sue your own parents?" I said, "You told me to learn independence. Hiring an attorney is part of that lesson." By midnight, 3 relatives had messaged me to apologize. 2 of them admitted that my parents had told them I was irresponsible and jealous of Ethan. Sarah sent me a long message. She had found notices in Ethan's office showing that the mortgage had been delinquent for months before they contacted me. She also found emails where Ethan had inflated his income on a refinancing application. I realized that my parents hadn't called me because they suddenly valued me. They called because the lender needed a financially stable replacement guarantor, and they wanted to put my name on the debt before I found out what they had done. The next phase of the battle was through lawyers, bank investigators, and a conference room in a downtown office building. Rachel sent a formal demand for records and notified the financial institution that the signatures on my accounts were disputed. She also warned my parents not to destroy any emails, statements, or tax documents. Within 48 hours, my father called me 30 times, and my mother left messages that alternated between apologies and accusations. In one voicemail, she said she had always loved me. In the next, she said I had become cold-hearted and greedy. I replied only once in writing, "Please communicate through my attorney." Unable to control me privately, my mother tried to control the narrative publicly. She posted a long message online saying that one of her children had abandoned the family during a financial crisis. She didn't mention my name, but there were enough details for everyone to figure out it was me. She described Ethan as a hard-working young homeowner brought down by bad luck and me as a successful businesswoman who had forgotten her roots. Friends from church and old neighbors started sharing the post. Some strangers commented that children who turned their backs on their parents would eventually regret it. 6 months ago, that kind of public judgment might have scared me into submission. But now, I had invoices, bank records, and archived messages. I posted a short paragraph. Due to inaccurate public claims about me, I want to clarify that funds legally designated for my education were withdrawn without my authorization and used for another family member. This matter is being reviewed by my attorney. I won't discuss it further online.